Half-Life Alyx is here, my download is complete, and the only thing left to answer is how amazing is the AAA VR gaming title to turn VR mainstream. So I'm all ready to experience it with the best VR headset on the market, the Valve Index, and their fantastic pressure-sensitive hand presence controllers. But that's not what we're gonna be doing today, is it? Oh boy, thank you. Instead, we're gonna be trying it out at a variety of different price points. So we're starting with an Oculus Quest, a GeForce GTX 1060, a combo of which is gonna cost you about $500, and we're gonna make our way up and see just what hardware is required for a fantastic Half-Life Alyx experience. And the whole thing is brought to you by ModMic. ModMic's lineup includes 3 options: the ModMic USB, which is USB attachable, the ModMic Uni, which uses a 3.5mm jack, and the ModMic Wireless, which is of course wireless. You can check out their lineup at the link in the video description. Step 1 today then is to downgrade my gaming rig. You can tell I built this a while ago. Yes, that is a mechanical hard drive. For gamers, there is really not much benefit to upgrading your SSD once you have at least an SSD.
Loading times for games?
Yeah, it's negligible. This case is a little bit tricky. The graphics card goes in from the front. We chose the GeForce GTX 1060 for a couple of reasons. Number 1 is that Valve's system requirements for the game specifically call for a GTX 1060 minimum. And number 2 is that you can obtain these for anywhere between about $80 and $100 US on eBay, which we think is a really great sort of entry-level gaming graphics card price point. That was a little different from what we usually do on this channel, but the downgrade is complete. Now for the headset. At $400, the Oculus Quest isn't exactly cheap, but we still like it for our entry-level VR headset recommendation because of how versatile it is. So you can grab a link cable, boom, perfect. Play desktop VR games on your computer, and then unplug, take it with you on the go, and play some Beat Saber while you're traveling. For our link cable, we're using a high-quality Anker USB-A to Type-C, this Sinloon right-angle adapter, and this Monoprice active USB extension cable. It's a bit of a kludgy solution, and it will cost you about 30 bucks, but it's way, way better than trying to use the Quest wirelessly on the desktop. It's just not worth it. It's nauseating. Headset's powered on, and there we go. All right, so we just need to set up the Oculus Link beta, and we will need the Oculus Store for that, even though we will be playing the game through Steam. You guys can see the mouse cursor, right? Yeah. Okay, finally. So in summary, we had to update the firmware on the Oculus Quest, and then update our Oculus Store, and we press on Steam Link beta, and theoretically, everything's good to go. Feels pretty good. So as stupid as it is, in order to play a Steam game, you just have to go into your Oculus sort of VR experience, and then you have to just launch Steam VR separately. I was very surprised to find out that apparently all the support for Oculus devices in Steam is Valve's work, not Facebook's work. They just seem to not care. And Valve apparently put a lot of work into making the Half-Life Alyx experience good no matter what headset you're using, and it apparently cost them some fun and interesting game mechanics that would have worked on the Index controllers with their individual finger tracking and fine control, but that weren't going to work on third-party ones like these. Performance. Hey, there we go. Medium fidelity. These are set automatically. Modifying these may impact frame rate. All right, well, there's our hand presence. So index finger is handled by the trigger, and then the other 3 fingers are handled by the side button here. Thumb is just from touching the top buttons. You don't actually have to press them. Whoa! And I disconnected. That's very disorienting. I'm gonna try plugging into one of the rear USB ports. Sometimes they can be a little bit more reliable. It took a while, but we finally got there. It doesn't look like we can run OBS at the same time as mirroring the game and playing the game. Overall, 72 Hertz. Like I said when I did my original video about the Quest, really doesn't feel that bad from a purely just like standing around and experiencing stuff standpoint. The only time it really makes a difference to me is in something really fast-paced, like especially Beat Saber. I'm definitely noticing that the hand presence would feel more natural with Valve's controllers, where it holds the controller onto you, because I find my instinct is to open up my hand and then go and grab stuff, whereas I kind of have to like hold onto it like this. I'm definitely getting a touch of stutteriness, but overall, Oculus Link is way better than last time we used it. Oculus Link died again, so we're just gonna abandon it at this point. If you have Oculus Link working reliably, really our main argument for the Oculus Quest for this application is that you already have one and you use it for other stuff anyway. If you're specifically buying a PC gaming headset to play Half-Life Alyx, this is not necessarily the way to go, and the good news is that the Rift S costs exactly the same amount anyway. So let's move on to that. For those who aren't familiar, the Rift S is similar to the Quest in a couple of ways. It uses inside-out tracking, so you don't need to mount any base stations on your walls, and it uses Oculus's touch controllers, but the key difference is that it is designed for PC use, so it has a USB and DisplayPort cable that go straight into the headset. The resolution is actually a touch lower than the Quest, but the refresh rate is higher at 80 Hz. It's a good balance of price to performance and convenience. Honestly, the difference in resolution between these two is not especially noticeable. Difference in frame rate, again, 8 Hz. It's not a night or day difference, but the difference in the feeling and the experience is pretty big. Now I heard that with the Index, you can actually pick up and then also crush cans, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Mind you, that can's already crushed. Maybe we can find another can later. I'm definitely seeing it chug a little bit here. This poor 1060. As things get a little bit busier, I'm getting a couple... Frame drops in VR feel a little bit different than normal frame drops because the headsets are often trying to interpolate frames where they don't have real information. So it's kind of more like a hitch than just a regular stutter. Really subtle touch feedback when you reach out and touch a wall. Ooh, that was a really ugly frame drop there. Let's go into the game menus and see if dropping it down to low settings resolves that for us. I gotta say, the game looks pretty good on medium.
Apparently with a 1060 on medium, you can run into VRAM issues. So that's probably why you got the big old stuttery stutter there.
That's pretty nice now, though. Seems like it's mostly lighting and shadows that took a hit there. I want to turn it back up and just have a look. Yeah, the ambience is definitely better on medium, but it's not like the game still doesn't look good on low. Man, if I wasn't looking at them side by side, I wouldn't be like, oh, this is like a crap looking game on low and it's a great looking game on medium. And for the smoothness, I'll definitely take low on the 1060. Now, our original intention had been to upgrade our GPU and our headset at the same time, going from the Quest to the Rift S and from the GTX 1060 to the RTX 2070, giving us nice tidy about $500, about $1,000, and then about $2,000 price brackets. It didn't work out that way, but that's okay. So we're gonna be using our Rift S now again, but this time with the RTX 2070 Super, which should allow us to turn up the details in the game a fair bit. Something to keep in mind is that we're only upgrading to the 2070 for the extra GPU horsepower. Half-Life Alyx doesn't take advantage of RTX real-time ray tracing or anything like that. So if you want to stick with the 10 series, something like a 1070, 1080, or 1080 Ti would be an excellent upgrade. And in fact, 1080 Ti's are about 10 to 15% more powerful than a 2070 Super, while actually costing anywhere from $50 to $100 less on the used market. One reason to go 2000 series though is if you're a game streamer, because you're going to be able to take advantage of the new Turing NVENC encoder. All right, so it automatically turned us up to high fidelity now. So let's go back and have a look at low. Unfortunately, I don't think you guys are getting a great look at what I'm seeing through the recording. At least the first one we did, the recording quality really wasn't great, but we were using the older NVENC encoder. This one might end up being better. All right, so there's low, and there's high. Does that look materially different to you guys?
Not really. The shadows look crisper.
Okay, here's a soft shadow, all right? High fidelity. What am I looking for here? Here's a texture. Here's the floor. All right? We all looking at this? Performance. If we spent all this time just to find out that it really makes just no darn lick of difference. Okay, it's a little blurrier. It's blurry. Like, it looks like kind of like my eyes are a little bit out of focus, you know? And there's no actual like texture in the grout lines. These shadows here, they're kind of fake looking. Okay, yeah, there's not much difference. That's pretty similar looking. Does look a little bit more poppy, but it is still flat. It's still fake-o shadows on the tiles there. Ultra fidelity.
Maybe instead of looking at things close, look at things really far in the distance.
Fine, okay. Well then let's just look at that, these tile walls and stuff back here, all right? Cool?
Yeah.
All right, fine. And like that concrete looks pretty natural. We're gonna go all the way down to low. This does not look different to me. Well, I would say aside from the frame rate never dipping, playing on even high actually, this experience is remarkably similar to the 1060, especially when you consider that it costs 5 times as much. Moving up to our highest price headset, the Valve Index costs a cool $1,000 US, but comes with some clear benefits given that it's made by the same developer as Half-Life Alyx in the first place. First is the hardware. The refresh rate of the display goes up to 144 Hz, which contributes to less motion sickness and smoother animations as you're moving around in the virtual world. The speakers and microphone are excellent if you're a streamer. It means you don't have to have any additional headphones or a third-party mic attached to it. And of course, there's the Index controllers. So they've got pressure sensitivity and individual finger detection just by touching the top of the controller, the trigger, and all along the handle here. There's like a whack ton of sensors, plus the ability to let go of it completely when you're interacting with things in the virtual world thanks to the straps that hold onto the back of your hand. One of the hidden costs for the Index though is in the additional hardware you'll need for your PC. Up until now, our 2070 Super and even our 1060 have delivered a great experience. But if you're gonna run the refresh rate of the display at 144 Hz, you're gonna need at minimum 144 frames per second in your game in order to not get stuttering and weird judders. That is definitely better. Just being able to like touch, it's very intuitive. Oh, wow, and not having to hold onto the controller, but still being able to reach the joystick, really nice. Oh, there we go. Now I just use the touchpad to switch my stuff. And that explains the interface design with the like kind of up and down motion. Can I just slide it? No, I do actually have to physically move. All right. I do really love Oculus's lenses, but that is so smooth. It's taking anywhere from about 4.9 to 5.2 milliseconds to draw each frame. This is at 144 Hz. So as long as we draw each frame in less than 6.9 milliseconds, we're good and we shouldn't see any stutters. As I move into more demanding environments though, we could see some spikes. So I was still on high fidelity just now. I suspect if we switch to ultra fidelity, we're gonna have a problem. Definitely seeing some spikes above our threshold here, so I'm gonna dial it back to high. So I wouldn't say that it's a huge problem, but it's the kind of thing that might manifest as feeling a little bit nauseated after playing for 2 hours. And so you might as well make sure that you're gonna be as comfortable as you can be. VR can be a little disorientating at the best of times. Like, I don't have them side by side, but realistically, these graphics do not look that much better than Half-Life 2. Out in a more open space, something they've really done a great job of is smoothing the performance, kind of no matter whether you're in a confined small space with not a lot going on or in a big open space. You can see they've kind of gracefully done away with a lot of the draw distance that you might see in a game that's not in VR, but it doesn't feel unnatural. It just feels, kind of like overcasty and gloomy. It really fits with the tone of the game. Not all the visuals are amazing for sure. Like, obviously the textures and lighting have come a long way since the original Half-Life 2, but there's, Valve's thing isn't necessarily the most beautiful looking games. Like, that water is very couple generations ago, and these plants are like, yeah, that's an older technique. You got your lit side on the lit side and your shaded side on the shaded side. It should be noted, guys, they're probably making a lot of these compromises for performance reasons, because it is much more demanding to render a game in VR than it is on a desktop monitor. That doesn't look like they spent that much time on it. I've seen way better graffiti. Now that I've seen all the different visual fidelity levels and cranked the index up to 144 Hz, which is the highest on the market, I can say with reasonable confidence that the 2070 Super is darn near the best you could need for a great Half-Life Alyx experience. Of course, if you've got it paired with an adequate CPU. I'm actually using a Ryzen 3900X in this machine. But for science, we're gonna go ahead and throw the RTX 2080 Ti that I normally run in this rig back in it and see if there's any noticeable difference. Sorry, I misspoke. I'm running a Ryzen 7 3800X, but my point stands. As long as you've got a decent gaming processor, even going back to a 4770K, especially if you throw a light overclock on it, I don't expect that to be your bottleneck. Okay, your performance settings are now at a recommended level. Performance, high? You put me at high? Nah, dog. I'm playing ultra. Interestingly, it looks like we were as much CPU bottlenecked as GPU bottlenecked before. Well, there's no doubt the game runs better on the 2080 Ti. That is butter smooth, and I'm not getting any spikes above that 6.9 millisecond threshold, or at least nothing that I can notice at all. Like there's one that touched the line just there, but that's it. And we're mostly around the 5.5 millisecond range. That's great. Switching back to low though, even with that said, I wouldn't say that the game looks way worse, even on the very lowest settings. The lighting effects in there, I think those were better. Let's go back to high. Yeah, if they were, it's not by much. So it would be really hard for me to recommend spending $1,100 on a graphics card to play this game, even if you did already spend $1,000 on your headset, which is a funny thing to say. I expected the conclusion of today's video to be a little bit complicated, but actually it ended up being really simple. As long as you've got something, I would say 1070 and better, you are having pretty much the Half-Life Alyx experience. So if you're gonna invest a bunch more money in order just to play this game, I would say it should really be in your VR peripherals. The Index controllers, no doubt, make the game better compared to any other controller. The hand presence is light years ahead of what anyone else is doing. With that said, I don't think that the Valve Index head-mounted display is as big of a game changer as the controllers are, given the style of game that we're playing. I would say something like a Rift S, or probably more likely, something like a Vive Pro, especially with the wireless adapter, would actually be a more immersive gameplay experience compared to the higher refresh rate of the Valve Index. So I think Valve has done a great job then of balancing their two priorities. One, giving a great gaming experience to every VR player regardless of their hardware, whether you're running a Windows mixed reality headset all the way up to the Valve Index, or a mid-range graphics card versus a high-end one, but then also giving that little bit of extra to the people who did spend $1,000 on the top-of-the-line VR headset on the market. Main Gear's Vector gaming laptop is available at 25 Micro Center locations as well as on Amazon. It features a Core i7-9750H processor, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1660 Ti graphics, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of NVMe storage, and a 15.6-inch 144Hz Full HD display. Check out this and other Micro Center specials at the links below. Thanks for watching then. If you guys want to see my full thoughts on the Valve Index from my original review, make sure you check that out. We're going to have that linked in the video description. And a video you shouldn't watch is my one of the Vive Pro, because the more I game with a tether, the more that looks like a pretty good solution with the wireless adapter by comparison, even if it does mean dropping from 144 Hz all the way down to 90.